Well, I came back to Starbase so I could be here for the Flight 6 of the Starship. And while I was here, I thought, why don't I give you a little bit of an update and a discussion about some of the things that have changed over the last 4 months since I was last here. And since it is SpaceX, that means that things are going really, really quickly. Now, behind me, you can see the production facility, see the mega bays, the high bay, Sanchez lot, and parts of the new Star Factory. That's only some of the changes that have happened over the last 4 months, and I'm going to take you through several of them, and I hope that you enjoy this look around Starbase, not only for the changes, but also just to get kind of a feel for what it is like out here. Now, if you've never been out here, it's a great opportunity to see a lot of the production and actual hardware out at the launch site at some pretty close distances, much closer than you normally get anywhere else on the world. So, you know, if you can come out here and take a look, I highly recommend you do so. And as you'll hear as a continuing theme throughout my time here, and I'll mention it a couple times in this video, that if you're going to come out to see Starbase, the sooner the better. Things are changing, the landscape's changing, construction is going up, and it's kind of making almost like walls that are cutting off some visibility, and there's a lot of changes out at the launch site as well. So, you know, come out here now while you can still see so much, and hopefully things won't change too much in the future, but it's always a possibility. So with that, let's get into some of the closer areas of Starbase and talk a little bit more in detail about the changes that have happened. All right, so I moved out to the launch site, and I'm over at the kind of the salt flat area, which is still open to the public, and you can come out here. Just make sure that you follow the signs that say private property and don't go past that point. But as you can see, we have booster 13, ship 31 in the full stack and getting ready for the launch tomorrow. I'm filming this on Monday, and it is about 24 hours away from the actual launch, which is amazing. Now, just continuing some of the what has changed since my last time here in June theme, the first thing that you'll notice is right over here behind me, the vertical tank farm. Those 8 large tanks that were based on the Starship are no longer there. And after Flight 1, we saw how badly they were damaged because of that rock tornado of the launch. And over time, they've gone ahead and replaced them all, done some reconfiguration work of the ground support equipment in this location. And in addition to that, they've done a lot more changes as well. So, well, I stopped the video real quick because we just had a proposal and she said yes over off screen. So pretty cool. So there's a lot of things that are going on here at Starbase that you may not expect. But going back to what I was talking about, in addition to removing those vertical tanks and doing some reconfiguration work of the ground support equipment, they've also done some additional work getting the tower ready to go again, but not as much as we've seen in the past. Most of the work is on the orbital launch pad, or the tower that you see the booster sitting on, and some work with the cryogenic lines and of course the quick disconnect. But otherwise, we saw that booster 12 was caught. They were able to get that off eventually and get this ready to go for this particular launch. And for the flight coming up, we're going to see if not only do they do the catch, but if they're able to accelerate that detanking process. And that is one of the goals for this flight. Now, as we continue to look to this direction, the biggest thing that is obviously noticeable is the second tower. Now, believe it or not, that was actually erected between June and today out here at Starbase. It's not quite ready for operations. They're still working on the orbital launch mount. That is being done over the Sanchez site. And they also have, of course, the chopsticks to be put on, the raceway for the chopsticks to glide on, and also the quick disconnect. And they're also doing work with the flame twitch, which is one of the biggest differences between what we're going to see with Tower 2 and Tower 1. And with that, it will give us a completely different look at the launch as well, with the exhaust plumes and how those are going to be managed. But all that has been constructed or is under construction since June. And in addition to that, as I pan a little bit more, next to that tower used to have a wall, and it had Gateway to Mars on it. And that was actually put up for Flight 3. And all of a sudden, by the time we got to Flight 5, that had been knocked down and they were getting ready to put up the tower. So that has changed as well. And there's just a bunch of other detailed changes, some of which you cannot see here with this view. And I will go to a different part of the launch site and show you those as well. But the thing that is definitely clear is that the work here for changes and progress at Starbase never seems to stop. In fact, I think it's accelerating. And if you compare with what we've been seeing down at Giga Texas versus here, I'd say it's on a comparable path as far as the speed of construction and the changes. So let's go look at some other parts of the site. One of the most obvious changes that has happened here in the last several months has been the construction of the Star Factory. It has increased in size tremendously. They have a lot more of the glass along the highway side and here on the end. This is the new administration building, and it is now joined together with the Star Factory, which used to be a separate structure until recently. And work continues on the inside to finish up that construction and have additional production facility capability for the Starships and the boosters as they continue to ramp up the production capabilities here at Starbase. What you also see behind me is a lot of these small homes, structures that look kind of like trailers, or maybe those micro homes that we've heard about. These have been added in here as part of the increased housing for the employees of SpaceX as this site continues to grow and brings in a lot more people. So they're going to have the support for where do they stay, where do they get food, where do they get entertainment, and just basically make sure that the entire population is well taken care of so they can continue that production. Of course, they are also hiring, so they're always looking for a lot more people, and that is definitely the case right now as SpaceX and Starbase continues to grow even larger, and they have big plans for what they want to do with the Starships and the boosters. Now, I will like to point out that they have the new Big X, the SpaceX X, that has just been put onto the end of the facility here at the administration building. This was added just before Flight 6, so that is really great to see. It's lit up at night, and it really gives yet another one of those kind of iconic landmarks here on the site. So a lot more going on here, and we've going to go over and take a look at some of that production facility area, how that has changed, and a few other sites. One other thing I do want to show you here, kind of put this up on the screen. It's an interesting comparison between the size of Giga Texas and the size of the Star Factory behind me. Now, as large as the Star Factory is, which is over 1 million square feet of production facility area, it is actually kind of dwarfed by the size of Giga Texas. And hopefully this comparison gives you kind of a little bit of an insight of what we're seeing not only here at Starbase, but up at Giga Texas, and how two of these very large facilities compare. So one of the areas that changed the most is Remedios Avenue behind me here. Now, about 1.5 years ago, this was open to the public. You could walk down to the rocket garden and see some of the ships and boosters very close and up in a person. And that all changed after the second flight. And since then, they put up this multi-level parking garage behind me, and of course the mural of the Marscape and what it might look like someday with starships landing on landing pads and the biospheres and people living on a community on Mars. So really nice to be able to see this, and of course you can get up close to this point and see what the mural looks like, and that's still open to the public, but Remedios Avenue is no longer open to the public. Now, another thing that you can see behind me right over here, that's the HLS lander test and prototype. And in that, they've been testing out some of the hardware, some of the configuration, some of the control surfaces, and of course the life support systems as well. And this is going to be playing a big role coming up in the next year as we get closer and closer to having this HLS version of the Starship being used by NASA and the Artemis program to take astronauts back and land on the moon. And also behind me, you can see a few more of the ships and also the famous booster 12 that did the launch and catch on flight number 5. And behind that area is where they also do some more of the scrapping, and the Sanchez lot where they do more of the fabrication work of a lot of the systems that are around the site, including the orbital launch mount, which is going in for Pad B, the new tower that's under construction as well. And of course they have the raceway for the chopsticks and the quick disconnect and other parts of the tower as well. And all that fabrication is done at Sanchez off to the right of me, and of course down Remedios Avenue and the mural here. Now further behind me on this direction is where they have Mega Bay 1, Mega Bay 2, the old High Bay, the Stargate facility, which is where they do a lot of the controlling of the Starship launches right now. And then beyond that is the new Star Factory, which has grown enormously, and a new administration building as well. So quite a bit of changes here at the production facility, and most of what you see right behind me did not exist when I was here back in June for flight 4. So the pace of change here at Starbase is enormous. So we'll continue to tour around and see more of the areas that have changed and just some updates of what's going on here at Starbase. We've moved over to the different side of the Star Factory. You see this swooping kind of glass structure behind me, a little bit reminiscent of the Starlink facility up at Bastrop, Texas, but a little bit different as well. It certainly does have that architectural elements to it, but this entire structure has changed quite a bit over the last 4 months. Much more of it has been completed. They finished this wall along the highway as well. And they've added in this new entrance that allows people to come in and out and cross over the production facility kind of area where the boosters and the ships are rolled out and get over to the Stargate facility. And of course, that was where Ellie in space and myself got a chance to meet with Elon Musk on flight number 4. And it was right into this facility here. And next to it is that new multi-level parking garage. Of course, we saw the mural for Mars, that landscape on the other side. Now behind me are the high bay and the 2 mega bays, and this is pretty much where they do the stacking of the boosters and the ships. And what's really changed over the last several months is kind of this alley, walkway, roadway where the boosters and the ships come through once they've been produced, and they're on their way out either testing at Masseys or over to the orbital launch mount. And there is a lot of speculation that the high bay, which is one of the first very tall structures here, is going to be removed at some point in the future because it's not high enough or large enough. And so we may see that, and perhaps even the Stargate facility removed and a much larger mega bay installed in this location. But if you have followed my channel, or if you watched any of the people that provide coverage of what goes on here at Starbase over the last several years, you'll notice that this entire area has changed considerably. It used to be the ring yard. There'd be a lot of those ring segments, a lot of other equipment and materials for the starships all throughout this area, and that has changed markedly. So again, a lot going on here at Starbase, and it's just never ending. And I bet by the time we come back here in another 4 or 5 months, even more of this is going to change. Something else significant that has changed here that you can't see behind me anymore, and that's because it has been moved to the other side of the road, is the famous hopper. And of course, this is the very first vehicle that was built and launched here. It was also the very first vehicle using the Raptor motors that are now featured on the booster and the starships, and very close to where I'm standing. In fact, right across the road is where it flew a couple of times here doing the hop tests. Of course, that's where the name Hopper comes from. And originally it was going to have a cone on the top, but that kind of got blown over and damaged in some wind. So instead they just kind of used, in this particular shape, they put some legs on it, and they put a single Raptor in, and they gave it a test flight. And pretty much everything that we see here at Starbase, all of the development of the various starships and the boosters owe their history, all comes from the hopper here. And it's just great that SpaceX has decided to keep it. At least it looks like they are doing that. They're doing some renovation on the hopper right now, and they're just getting it ready for a permanent display right here, easily visible on Highway 4. If you do come out to the site, you'll be coming from the production facility right behind me down this road, Highway 4. You'll be able to see the hopper, and then as you continue around and down this road, get to where the launch towers are located and where the launches take place. So a lot of changes continue on this part of the OLM and the launch facility. So let's go to another spot and show you some additional changes that have happened in just the last 4 months. Behind me used to have a container wall that went along this entire section. There was also a different gate farther towards my right that's been replaced with this entire large gate structure. This is where they can bring in the boosters and the ships on the SPMTs, and it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to maneuver in. Another thing that you can tell is all these tanks and some of the vaporizers and also the chiller units that have been installed here. This is part of the system that replaced those vertical tanks. It's also an extension of the tank farm that has the various cryogenic commodities for the launch and for the operations here. And this is going to continue to be built along this direction as they expand it further to be able to support the second tower. And as I turn this way, you can tell a little bit more back on the road towards the production facility what this looks like. They have the gate off to the right, the new tower right behind me, and of course all of those commodities, tanks, cryogenic storage, the pumps, the pipes, and all of the ground support that is needed for that tower is under construction right now. And it will go pretty much through the area behind from where you can see here, and a lot of underground tanks, manifolds, and concrete vaults to be able to direct all of that cryogenics properly over to the new tower. So again, construction continues here at a very fast pace, and we just can see the changes very rapidly in just a short period of time. So let's go to another part of the site and see some additional changes. This is one of the areas that has had the most noticeable changes in the last 4 months, and this is out by where the new tower is. And it's not just the new tower that has come up in the last 4 months, but also, if you remember, earlier this year they put in a wall and it said Gateway to Mars, and that was all along this entire area behind me. And when they started the construction of the tower, they pretty much knocked that entire wall down, and they've been reconfiguring this entire area for the construction of the tower, the flame trench, and all of the various pipes, pumps, and manifolds necessary for the cryogenics to support the operations out of the out of the tower that's right here. And as we continue to look back, another view of both towers and hopper that has been moved over on the other side of the road, and just overall what this part of the site looks like. Now, once all of the construction for the tower is completed here, it's likely that they're going to have some different kind of wall structure around this area, perhaps a little bit farther down in this part of the land, and that may restrict some of the access, or at least the views that you might have here. But on the flip side, the ship and the booster and a full stack on this tower will be pretty easy to see, especially just down the road of Highway 4, more so than what we see with the original tower on this side. And one of the other big differences that I'll just point out here with the two towers is that with the original tower, the booster and the ship are stacked kind of facing the Gulf and to the north and northeast. The new tower, the ship and booster will be stacked kind of the opposite side for where we are looking here, and it will be facing more towards the south and east. So it's a little bit different orientation between the two towers, and of course the changes with the Gateway to Mars and the movement of the hopper and all the rest of the construction that's going on here to support operations out of the new tower. And just imagine when we see one of these days a full stack on both towers. Won't that really be pretty cool? So anyway, let's keep looking around Starbase, and I'll show you some more of the changes that have happened over the last 4 months. We're talking about more of the changes here at Starbase. A little bit different view of the orbital launch site. Of Of course, the biggest thing that you notice is that second tower off to my right and between me and the original tower. Now, of course, I filmed this the next day after the launch, so the Starship is not there anymore, and I'll go into that in a different video. But for the purposes of this difference video, some of the things that have changed and what we will be seeing in the near future for changes has to do with that second tower. Now, since in the June when I was here before and now, that tower has gone from nothing all the way up to being completed. And they also have started work on the flame trench, which is significantly different than the orbital launch mount that you see on the first tower. And that's going to be dug down into the ground, and it will help divert the exhaust in a much more effective way, and also use a little bit more of the water as far as the deluge and cooling system to try to help increase the robustness of the launch site and the stage 0 support facilities that are important for the launches. So that work, the chopsticks, the rails for the chopsticks, quick disconnect, and some of the ground support equipment, some of the tanks, pumps, and pipe system, all are going in for that tower, and it will most likely be ready to go in the first several months of 2025. Also, one of the biggest changes is that vertical tank farm is not there, so we have a much clearer view of all of the ground support equipment where those tanks used to be, and also gives us a great view over towards that tower and the orbital launch site. And this is not only an aesthetic thing that we can tell, but it helps a lot with the launch and prevents more of that damage from the exhaust plume, which is very close to where those tanks used to be. So let's go to another part of the site and see some more of the changes that have happened here at Starbase. Okay, we've moved over to where those vertical tanks used to be, and right behind me, you were not able to see the launch tower and those chopsticks because those vertical tanks would have been in this area. Of course, with them removed, we get a much better view across from this part of the site. And just to give you an idea where I'm at, I'm on the Highway 4 that runs right along the side here of the orbital launch site. And there used to be also more walls here. They were kind of container walls, and those were removed as part of the reconfiguration work in this section. Also, right in this area is where all of the tanker trucks come to bring those cryogenic commodities. And this is much clearer viewing and a lot more open up than it was before. So if you do come out here to Starbase and you want to see the Starship and the full stack right behind me, you get a much better view with all of the changes. So there you have it, a tour around Starbase showing you a lot of the areas that have changed over the last few months. And it's everywhere from the production facility here and the new Star Factory all the way out to the launch site, the new tower, and the new flame trench, and a lot of in between as well. So much is changing so quickly here at Starbase, and that's pretty much the way SpaceX works. And if you've been up at Giga Texas, followed any of my channel as well, you know that Tesla does the same thing. And both facilities are just growing and changing on a daily and weekly basis. So if you have been here before, but not in a while, I recommend you come back. You're going to be shocked at how much has changed. If you've never been here before, I recommend that you make plans and just go ahead and come out here. If there's a launch, it's a great opportunity to see that. But if you're just happen to be in the area, anytime is great. There's always activity here, and they're really legitimately building the future. So a lot of exciting things coming up in 2025. Of course, Flight 6 went and was very successful here yesterday, and a lot of people got a chance to see that as well. Of course, the work doesn't stop. They're already getting ready for Flight 7, and we'll see when that happens, probably the first month or two of the new year. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your support and for watching along, and I hope you enjoyed what I was able to talk about today. Take care.